Mark? Still active? One or two players you'd like?
Yeah, I mean, I think, going by that, if the window to close tonight, Paul, I think he would be happy. But there's more than 2 weeks to go, so he will look to improve the squad. There's no doubt about that. I think there's just a wee bit there of kind of dampening expectation as well. Just kind of playing things down, and then if they happen to produce something, then all the better. But we do know, Paul, there's money there. If the right player becomes available, there's money to spend. And one thing the Celtic board, Michael Nicholson, the Celtic supporters know about Ange Postecoglou, he knows a player, and if he wants somebody, you go and get him. The manager is choosing the players, Paul. We know that. That's the way it should be at every club. The manager should be choosing the players. Yes, you've got your scouting staff and people round about. You make recommendations, put things forward. If the manager wants to tap into your own knowledge, then fine. But over the piece, the manager must choose the players. When you don't allow the manager to choose the players, it's a recipe for disaster. But Ange is in control at that club, and that's the way it should be.
Barry, you've been a manager. Do you agree with Mark?
Yeah, but one thing it tells me with that interview there is he's not going to spend money for the sake of it, unless he thinks it's going to strengthen the starting 11 or get players in who are going to threaten to get into that starting 11. That's the only reason he'll spend money. He says he's got his eye on one or two players, but that depends on the price, or if the player wants to come to Glasgow and play for Celtic. So as it stands, he's made a few signings. He got, obviously, the two main ones for me was Carter Vickers and Jota in permanent deals. He's brought another few in. Celtic squad's looking really strong. But ideally, as a manager, you're always looking to improve. But the way that Postecoglou's went about his business, he'll only do it if he feels it's going to strengthen the Celtic team.
Can you think of any manager in Scottish football who's had a signing record like he had in that period last season?
With the volume of players that come in, no. How many players? Correct me here, 15, 16 players. I know myself, we've been using football guys to bring that amount of players in and gel them. I mean, it wasn't perfect at the start. It took a few weeks to get up and running, as we've seen with the start of the season they had. But generally, if you're bringing that volume of players in,
it
takes longer than that.
4 out the back 5, brand new. Only Greg Taylor, one who survived. Brand new forward line, 2 wide players and a striker, and 1 or 2 in the middle of the pack. Your number 10 and different things. So you're looking at 8 or 9 first team starters. I think his record, Paul, is quite remarkable. I mean, you look at what he inherited, what was being said about him this time last year, and look the way he turned it around. And by the way, against a very good Rangers team, wasn't it? It's not as if there was no competition. A right good Hearts team.
Sure. Yeah.
So they had to overcome a team that were the champions, that were full of confidence, that knew each other. Okay, there was a change of manager, but I think actually in some ways you look back now, that benefited Rangers. Now I know people would say, but he'd a 4-point lead when he took over Giovanni, or a 6-point lead from Steven Gerrard, but they did get to European final, so I know I maybe contradicting myself there, but I think it was time for change with Steven Gerrard. I think he'd run his course. I think he felt it as a manager, and I think maybe the players and the board felt it, that it was time for change, and Giovanni came in. But yeah, his record, Ange Postecoglou, is absolutely brilliant, and it just shows you, when you allow the manager the final word, what a difference it makes.
That's the way it should be. You know what I mean? It's the manager who's picking the team. I mean, I know other clubs have worked differently, but that's the way it should be for me. But you've got to respect the job that he's done, no matter what side you're on. To bring a number of players in and get them gelled as quickly as he did. I know myself, being involved in football and squads, when 4 or 5 players come in, I know how difficult it is to integrate them into your team and the way that you want to play, and obviously the demands and expectations, everything that goes with playing with the whole firm. So you've got to respect the job that he's done. But in terms of this season, I still think he's one of the ones where he'll not stand still. He's always looking to improve, but that's good, because he's a player, that's what you want. You
always loved that when somebody came in new.
I feel that's the best thing as a player. When you see somebody walk through that dressing room door, you think, he's a good player. Well, he's my position. Well, I need to step up a level or two, and that's, for me, that's what successful teams are built on.